Good afternoon. My name is Reverend Casey Taylor. I am the senior minister here at the United Life Center for Spiritual Living, and we meet every Sunday here at the Healers Co-op for Spirit Uncuffed at 1 p.m. And I'm grateful that each one of you is here today. As I am the prayer and meditation person today, which I haven't done since I was the assistant minister here. So I love that what it means to be uncuffed is that we take off our hats and put on different ones, that you don't have to be a Centers for Spiritual Living or Science of Mind practitioner or minister to be our speaker, to be our musician. And today's a drum Sunday as well. So I've got my drum, Risa's got her drum. And Risa, if you want to come on up, we're gonna get started with Risa's song super shortly. Little rundown about what to expect over the course of the next hour. We just had a sound bath. Dee Perkins kicked us off with this sound bath, which is why we've got this low lighting, because we were in a low lighting vibe after Dee's sound bath. Then Risa is going to kick us off next after this with the opening song. We will speak our vision and mission, do a little meditation on honoring the 39 tribes. Then I'm going to do the prayer and meditation. Risa is going to sing another song that we will sing together, as for the last couple of weeks we have, I've declared us and nobody has said no. I am KC and y'all are the Sunshine Band. We got our drums and we want to be Sunshine Banding it up with our drums. Bekah Jane is here for the first time to give a message about our theme.
Let's go, Bekah.
Let's go, Bekah. We'll do a little conscious giving, some announcements, and then our closing song. So now it is time for us to get our drums as Risa kicks us off with Rachel's song.
Great, thank you. Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here. I love to share music. I think it's not only such a powerful tool to receive, like we did in the sound bath, but to participate and to connect in that way. And so Rachel's song is just a great slow rhythm that we can warm up our energy and like our voices. Rachel's a woman who's no longer with us, but she left us with this gem to remember to use the voices that God gave us.
Remember does not resonate with you, feel free not to affirm it and let us know how you feel after service, and we'll talk about it. So here's our mission. If it resonates, feel free to affirm it with me. We are
A loving, inclusive community, joyfully expressing spirit. We honor, celebrate, and support each individual's awakening to their magical magnificence. We empower each other to create happy, healthy, abundant lives.
Somebody came in for the first time today and said that they were looking for a spiritual community that is not dogmatic, and I love that this vision and mission is where we live from, is where we align with. When I have a question or a moment of what's the best way forward, I revisit this, and if dogma has to be, if this needs to be my dogma of being a loving, inclusive community, empowering each other, empowering and supporting each other to our spiritual magnificence, I'm with it. This is why I am here, and I am grateful for each one of you who chooses to affirm this together on Sunday and participates in living this vision and mission within the community. Thank you for doing that.
Let's go.
Yes. So we have begun this new tradition on Sundays. We discussed this at our annual meeting this year. We talked about land acknowledgements and what's the best way for us to honor the fact that there are 39 tribes represented in Oklahoma. And we decided the best way to do that is to put up a slide with the names of the 39 tribes and take a moment to meditate on them. So, and it's a moment, so I'm going to borrow Risa's chair for a little bit, and I'm going to get into the prayer and meditation portion right after this. So I'm going to invite you, as I get settled, I'm going to invite you to take a moment and just notice, read, reflect, whatever it is that your intuition inspires you to do, however it feels to honor the 39 tribes of Oklahoma in this moment. All right, so I'm going to move on to the prayer and meditation portion. Oh, here it goes. And the prayer and meditation portion for Spirit Uncuffed has been as uncuffed as the name of who we are on Sundays. That sometimes somebody gets a little power talk, sometimes it's a reading, sometimes it's a true meditation. And this morning, as I was thinking, how do I want to honor the final Sunday of Black History Month? I felt like Howard Thurman's The Inner Journey, which is the book of the month, the Center for Spiritual Living identified this book as the book of the month. And I just pulled this out of our library a couple of weeks ago, waiting for inspiration. And to be honest, the 2 pages that I read today is the extent of this book that I have read. But I was called to those 2 pages, and I'm admitting this because I think it's important that what it means to honor Black history is to recognize that my education program never included any assigned reading from Howard Thurman. I've heard his name a lot. I didn't actually know he was Black for a good amount of my own personal education. And as he is the author for the book of the month, like I said, I was grateful for the opportunity to just open it and see what called to me. And the very first 2 pages that I read, I felt were perfectly in line with our theme. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this page and a half from the 2 pages. I skimmed through this chapter, but it's what jumped out at me, and I knew it was perfect. So I'm going to read this page and a half, and then lead us into prayer together. Okay. So invite you to get comfortable, and again, just letting Howard Thurman's words resonate in whatever way your intuition leads and feels. This chapter is called The Broken Harmony, A New Heaven and a New Earth. And I want to note, this was written in 1947, because what he says about current days, I think is relevant to know that this is how people felt in 1947, and here I am reading this in 2026. We are in varied ways concerned about the welfare and well-being, our own and that of others. Rare indeed is the man who looks at his own life, who examines his personal position, and is assured that he is in no need of improvement. The place where a man stands is never quite the place that marks the limit of his powers and the resting point for all his dreams. This is the way of life. It is easier to be more concerned about the welfare and well-being of the world than our own. Few can escape the urge to join in the general chorus of the age that we have fallen upon evil days. There seems to be a strange, weary comfort in taking one's place against the wailing wall. There is a searching danger ever present in all anxiety, whether personal or social. It can be so easily to become a substitute for thoughtful planning and action. One is constantly placed in jeopardy by this possibility. Have you ever said with real feeling, I must do something about drinking so much coffee, or I am alarmed over the fact that I can't seem to get down to business with my own personal life. Of all the great number of people who feel outraged over what seems to be a terrible miscarriage of justice, how many do something concrete about it? All the energy is exhausted in such remarks. How awful. What a tragedy. Something ought to be done. What a shame. Again, our emotional reaction to situations cause us to adopt measures that bring temporary and quick relief from the immediate pressures on us, but do not have much effect on the situations themselves. The real purpose is to relieve only ourselves. Somehow we must find that which is big enough to absolve us from artificial and ineffective methods for increasing welfare and well-being. This means the large view, the great faith which will release the vast courage capable of sustaining us, and the long pull toward a valid increase is welfare and well-being. It is for this reason that a religious faith about life and its meaning become a necessity for all who would work for a new heaven and a new earth, the achievement of which is a literal fact. So, I invite you to take a moment to get comfortable in your seats and breathe in this wisdom from 1947, conscious of the fact, the reality, that whatever time we are born into, whatever place that we are born into, there is always something to wail about. There is always something to complain about. There's always some tragedy or shame or travesty taking place. And I am grateful that despite the noise of the world, that each one of us has chosen to show up in spiritual community, that we have chosen to look inside ourselves, to put our attention on what is ours to do, identifying our intuition, guiding our path forward, stepping up against the edge of possible. And I'm grateful to trust and know that Bekah's message is exactly what each one of us needs to hear. It is why we have shown up, is why she has shown up. And I'm grateful for the inspiration, the wisdom, the shift that takes place in our lives as a result of showing up together to empower one another to live happy, healthy, abundant lives. And I'm grateful for the joy, abundance, and empowerment that we experience as a result to consciously participate in sacred community together. And in gratitude, I invite us to affirm this truth, this prayer, in whatever way resonates most for you in closing prayer. I choose to close by saying,
and so it is. I say.
All right, I think it's time to get out of Risa's chair.
Oh, it's
As
song
she
time?
said, hurry home.
Song time? Okay.
That was good. That was amazing.
Something I love about sharing these songs is that they're very simple and they're very repetitive. And that is purposeful so that we can get out of our minds a little bit and drop into the rhythm and the words and the connection of like, what does this really feel like to me? And its own meditation, really. And so this song, Hari Om, if you'll just go ahead and flip to the words. Just want to share a little bit. Hari Om, Sat Nam, it's Sanskrit. And really Hari Om is just talking about like this love, this praise to everything, this Om, the containment of this universe. And when I first learned the song, it was Hari Om, dear Lord. And in my own personal journey, I've been struggling with the word Lord in my own spirituality, so I changed it to One Love because I thought, well, if I could put a word to how I feel about God, it would probably be love. And so I just invite you to sing the song with me. It doesn't matter if you're on beat, it doesn't matter if you're on key. That's not what singing is about. It's really about finding that space. Okay, that's it. I'll lift it up.
Okay, Sunshine Band.
Yes, Sunshine Band brought it.
Oh, that was beautiful. Let's go, Bekah.
We should have had this situated before I got here. I'm old school. I take lots of notes. My name's Bekah Jane. I'm a deaf doula by trade. I read palms. I lead breathworks. I try to find God in everything. Over the course of the last 2 years, that's been kind of a mission.
pull things up by the scruff of the neck and show me God. And realized that what I was looking for was the reflection of my love in everything, which is hard because I don't love everything. I'm a follower of Ram Dass, and one thing he says is to tell the truth and love everyone. It's a paradox, you know. But I recognized, as I blew up my life a few years ago, searching for who I really was. And the answers that came back were unexpected. I didn't expect to be here doing these types of things. Last time I did anything like this was teaching Sunday school. And I tell myself that I'm a writer because it gets my thoughts out with no contention, no contest. And I can finish my thought without interruption. But it's just another way for me to block out the noise of everything else. And I need the noise, turns out. I was extroverted or introverted for most of my life. Thought I had to be. I didn't realize that it was a story I told myself. People are too hard. People are crazy. People need too much from me. And I changed my story. I rewrote my nervous system. And I'm a completely different person now than I was most of my life. But I feel like I'm more myself, the self I wanted to be when I understood what that even meant. I feel like I'm more that now. Hopefully that makes sense. I will refer to my notes a lot, and I'm a weeper, so bear with me. One thing I like to do whenever I'm talking to people is everyone take a deep breath. Release together. Now we're connected forever. We've shared life. We've shared our prana. And you know, when I first had my spiritual awakening, I dove headfirst into atheism, you know, the quantum realm, and I was going to make this make sense, and evolution, and all of those things. And you know, when you get down into the basics of quantum, you find out that we're all the same thing, and that's kind of an interesting space to be. And it makes much more sense where I'm at now. You know, that I am you and you are me, and we are both that drum, and that there is no difference. And these human forms, that's what we take. We draw lines of this is acceptable and this is not, with our behaviors, with our appearance, with everything. And everything that we see happening right now is a reflection of our inner world. And it goes from, you know, globally to our state, to our community, to our social circle, to our family, and to ourselves. We reflect everything outward. It's why we're such a mess right now. And we think, how did we get here? And then there's those of us, like in this room, who know we know how we got here. And so I guess the next question would be like, what do we do about it? And I loved the theme for this week, and I kind of went a little off base, but I wrote, on the edge of possible. And this is from the script, we are co-creators. This world reflects our inner chaos. Suffering is an attempt to find order. And yeah, if you break down anything that you suffer with, what is it? It's anything that goes against what I want.
Yeah.
Anything that goes against the idea I have in my head of how things should be. And then I'm suffering. When someone's rude to me, tells me that my work is not real, I'm like, I used to take exception. Now I'm like, that's your perspective. My work is my work no matter who says it is or not. It's real, whether or not you believe it. And that's a strange place to get to when you're a know-it-all. And you want everyone to see, I have all of these facts. Look at my list, you know. I have proof. And to what end? You know, to what end? Do you want to have to prove everything to everyone all the time? You know, there's a primordial lizard in my brain that's like, yes, I can do it. I have notes, you know. And I have to step back from that and be like, what do I really want? Do I really want everyone's love, or do I just want their approval? Do I want acceptance? And when I step back even further into the me that observes myself, and I'm like, all you really actually want is peace.
Yeah.
In your own nervous system. You want to feel it. When someone tells you you're not who you are and it makes you mad, it's because there's a part of you that believes that. And we've set these systems up. You know, I had someone recently say, in the realm of all one, if you remove one L, then it's all alone. You know, we were alone. That's why we did this. And I love Greek mythology. It's kind of what started me on the path. People would say, you know, who's your deity if you practice witchcraft? And I was like, why do I have to have a deity? And so I started studying gods and goddesses, and I found very quickly it's the constructs of human psychology. That's all it is. And I love the Greeks' explanation of it because it's so concise and it's ancient, it makes sense. You know, from the primordial egg we all sprung, chaos erupted and formed into fractals of different light, and we're just reflections of each other's light. But the humanity is the struggle. That's where we forget what is actually possible because we think that we're human. We forget that we are souls playing the role of the humans. We invented opposite. Racism is our inability to accept all parts of ourselves. Government because fear loves rules, and it lies to us and says that if we follow the rules, we'll be safe. And even here we learn not to trust ourselves. And then we see our government fail us, and then we learn not to trust others. And we have created, you know, in witchcraft, one of my favorite things is to talk about is egregores. How you can sit in a circle and create an entity by speaking its truths, and you say what it acts like, what it eats, what it looks like. And you build this energy, and we have created this egregore of government, of the them. We create it by getting together in groups and whispering about them. What are we going to do about them? What are we going to do to save ourselves? And we live in a time, every time that we incarnate in is tumultuous. We're human, that's why we're here. We live in a time that's hard to know what to do with the anger. Because I'm angry a lot. What do I do with this rage? Because it makes me feel impotent. I can't go storm the castle. I can't do, what can I do? I can sit in love. I can feed the hungry. I can hold the suffering. I can comfort my friends. I can feed my children. That's the things that I can do are these small individual things, because just like this global cataclysm that we're all watching erupt, it started here. It's a reflection of my inner world rearranging itself. So we have to look at how we want the world to be rearranged. And if we return violence and hate with violence and hate, we repeat the ancient patterns. You know, we keep referring to, 1940s Germany. Why are we here again? Well, because we did the same things, Like we've literally fucked around and found out. This is what's happened.
Facts.
What happens when you meet violence with violence and hate with hate. And it sounds dismissive, and part of my brain would tell me you're spiritually bypassing. There's a sense of justice. Where's the justice? I'm not in charge of justice. Crap, it's the voice that comes back. Darn, I don't get a say. I don't get a say in whose head goes on what spike, because I've got ideas, and I'm not here for that, even though I'm built for that. And I have to go against my natural human desire, which is intellectually violent. I can hurt you with my words, I can hurt you with my fists, and I'm not here for it. I'm here as a healer. Who picked this way, And I'm all of these things stuffed into one body, just like all of us are. Just like we all have to pull forward what it is that will actually serve our highest good. I wrote, it's a game we set and forget how to play. People in here are different than we started out. Some of us thought we were born straight. Some of us thought that, we were going to medical school. Some of us thought we were going to do all of these different things, and it turns out along the way these things change. And we learned through our changing that love has conditions, or what we think of as love has conditions. You know, we learn as children to conform. You do right, you get a star. You do wrong, you get smacked. Some of us get smacked regardless, and so we learn how to play games and find patterns. We learn how to read energy, be ahead of the game. It teaches us in early life to be manipulative, to be like, I sense a storm coming, what can I do to protect myself through it? And when you get to the point where you're no longer protecting yourself, and you don't even, let's ride the storm out, see what happens. You know, when we don't ever allow ourselves to just be disrupted. Let someone say the rude thing. Let someone say the untruth. Does it actually change anything? And again, I face this daily. You know, people gossip, people talk, and I take exception to these things. Why? Why am I the exception to every rule? Why do any of us think that we're the exception to rule? Why do we think that, again, every martyr has an executioner, and we admire these martyrs, and we, you know, condemn the executioner? But they were playing a part in a karmic dance that we don't see the beginning or the end of. We're just right here. So we see these acts of violence taking place, and we think, I would give anything to return that bullet, ricochet, boomerang it right back. But to what end? Is my heart grieving for the suffering, or am I just mad because there's wicked men trying to change things? Most of the time, it's both. I grieve for the suffering, and also I'm angry, and I want something to happen to those people quickly. And that's not my task. You know, people say, what do I do with this anger? And we sit with it and talk to it, trace it back to its origins. Like I trace my origins back to, I just want peace. I don't actually want love. I am love. I am a loving being. I'm also a jerk. I'm both of those things. And it's okay. Accepting all of our parts is not something that we were taught to do. We're taught the edge of what is possible has very strict perimeters. It's almost like pinball. If something will hit you back and forth, you can't actually go over here. That's just an illusion. I wrote, God is a sticky 6-year-old and I'm the fish that he pokes with a stick. And there's some days where I'm God poking the fish with the stick. Do something, be something different. And then there's some days where, you know, God is poking me and I can't be anything but a dead fish. I'm sorry. That's who I am today. And finding my role and adapting to it without any form of stress or dysregulation is freeing. And I'm in that space about 5 to 10 minutes every day. The rest of the time I'm working. And I'm doing my EFT tapping and I'm re-regulating my nervous system. And I love with EFT that you speak the uncomfortable truth. You speak that I am suffering. This is painful. Things are not going the way I wanted them to. But also I'm okay. Because both of those things are true. And it's strange when we think of sitting with our suffering and talking to it. Probably not for me because of my line of work. But for most people, I find you want to push it away. You don't want to deal with it. You don't want to look at it because it's painful. And we think if it's painful, it's not meant for us. Because who am I to suffer? You're human. Your soul is here to experience the humanity, to understand the wild and wonderful and horrible things our hormones do to our brain. And we live in a state of dysregulation until we learn how to re-regulate. And we thought by putting perimeters and creating systems and religion and family structures and all of these things that this would be the way. And even though we're 500 years into it now, it's not working. So we keep saying something's got to change. Something's got to change. And then we have these horrible acts start to take place. And we think, not this. This isn't how I want to change. But we don't get to choose. And that sucks. That the idea of the world that I have in my head just lives in my head. And that there is no good, there is no bad, there just is. That we are nothing but in a swirling vortex of cosmic reciprocity that we don't understand. All we're responsible for is ourselves. Which is hard because I am a manager of people, I feel like, you know. They come to you for advice and you're like, here, I have wisdom for you. But until I figure it out myself and really tell someone, again, I always refer to sitting on the ground with someone in their suffering and comparing scars. So one of the things I wrote is, the one who pulls the trigger is incomplete karmically. Without a victim. Some of us are victims and some of us are villains. Some of us pull the trigger and some of us receive the bullet. And I sit with, men who have PTSD and what value do I add to this world? And, I speak loftily of karmic reciprocity then, but what is it when it's your neighbor? Pulled from their home. When it's this shouldn't be a war zone, and yet it is. We categorize where violence and where wrong fits, and we're in a state where wrong is everywhere. And how can these people not see it? Again, these people. How do some of us see it and some of us don't? Because if it was supposed to be perfect, we wouldn't be here. And we called for change. And change begins with massive disruption. We only learn through dysregulation. I had an incident happen with my son, and someone had done something, and he was so embarrassed he didn't want anyone to know. And I was like, nope, I'm going to his mama. We're gonna talk. And he's like, but he's gonna be so. And I was like, yes, he's gonna feel so dysregulated. He's gonna be so upset. He will be embarrassed. He will feel shame. Those are the things he needs to feel in order to re-regulate his nervous system around this. So there's no harm in disrupting every once in a while. It does me well to be disrupted. Because after I rage and sulk, I sit with myself and actually figure out what's really wrong. And so we ask ourselves, is the value of suffering diminished when there is no restoration? When there is no retribution? And what happens if they go unpunished? I don't want to think about it. From even a cosmic karmic point of view, I don't want to think about what happens when people get away with crimes that they commit and harm that they inflict and violence that they encourage. I don't want to think about it. I have to keep my focus on expansive love. Feed the hungry. Sit with the do the things that I can actually do to cause a ripple effect of change. And it starts from here. It doesn't start fighting strangers on the internet. Trust me, I've tried. It just reinforces them, it turns out. And they bring their friends. It becomes a whole thing when we make everything us against them. The them and us needs to be those who suffer and those who heal. I'm not here to beat people up, and it sucks because I feel like I'd be good at it, I know that goes against my nature. My nature is to be mean at times. And I have a very strong sense of what I feel like is justice. And some of you might even agree with that justice. And it feels good sometimes to talk about, heads on spikes, and we hope they get what's coming to them. And text me if someone dies. And I sit with that as a death doula, and I'm like, oh gosh. These powerful leaders who are harmful, even calling for death. Eat the rich. People say it so often. I'm like, first of all, you're tough. Second of all, some of us who don't eat meat regularly, you take on the suffering.
Yeah.
I don't want to take on the suffering of that individual. Think about the level of suffering that takes place inside the body of someone who can cause so much disruption. Think about what it is that they're here to disrupt. And act like it's not a part of their contract. You're the only one who's here with a purpose. Everyone else is just fucking with things. I tell myself that all the time. But it's not true. I have to go outside more. That actually helps. When I'm outside, talking to more people, I was like, we're the same kind of crazy. This works. And it's funny because we have friends. I have a friend in the spiritual community, most of you know, and he tells me, I'm sure everyone, that he's the sword of karma. And I love that ideation, He will accidentally happen upon a situation where something doesn't work out for an individual and they will blame him. And he's like, well, I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or the right place at the right time, depending on how you look at it. And I sat with that for a while after he and I talked about it, and he'd be like, well, that's just what they get. And I was like, is it though? If if any part of our ego, the part of us that's like trying to win anything ever, causes harm, then we're not being the sword of karma. I've had instances where a family has reached out to me for, recommendation to a caregiver, and I've been like, no, not that one. And then, the caregiver will be angry with me. I'm like, I'm sorry. I can't in good faith do X, Y, and Z. In those instances, I feel like, yes, that is me being the accidental sword of karma. So I have to understand that things level themselves out without my manipulation. And typically, if I manipulate it, I'm going to overshoot it. I'm going to overshoot my shot, and the ripple effect is actually going to be a wave. And then something else has to happen to balance that out. I've learned to just sit and do what I feel is right from my observer's point of view, not from my participant, because my participant can be a little vicious at times. My participant can look at other people's backgrounds and what they might do or might not have done and think that I have any say in their life. And it's just mean, it's just not me. It's not who I'm supposed to be anyway. It's the part of me that I try to silence. So I wrote, how can we use our emotions positively in our spiritual path? And I even don't like the word positive in this sense because, but how can we use it to our betterment, to the betterment of all? Because if it's good for us, it's good for everyone. I can do nothing but work on myself, and you can do nothing for me but work on yourself. When we are all the best version of ourselves, everybody's safe. So I have to take this internally, and what can I do? So I had a lot of religious wounds growing up in the church, and I meditate frequently. And I have no issues with Buddha. Kali and I are. And then one day, Jesus comes into meditation. I'm like, oh, what are you doing here? And one of the things that I do when I write is I write about archetypes, and I use gods and goddesses as the reference, and their stories. And Christ said, you talk about everybody's positive aspects but mine. What was my message? And I was like, dude, I don't even really remember, because I was a fundamentalist. We didn't focus on Jesus. We focused on punishment and retribution and rules. And so I went back through and I just read, it took me a while to find the Bible, read the words in red. And then I went further back and I read the Orthodox scriptures. And I went further back and I read the Dead Sea Scrolls. And any interpretation of Christ's writings that I can find. And I was like, we had it so wrong. So wrong. He was here to remind us that we are loving awareness. We are consciousness. We are always connected. You to me and me to you and us to everyone. That's why we feel everything so heavy. It's why we have people who are introverted and think, I can't go outside, it's too heavy. Shift some of the weight around. Give it to me, I can hold it for a minute. I'm full of rage, I have lots of strength. You'll find people who balance those things in you. I have friends, who are delicate and soft. And, I feel like the little wilting lilies, and I'm like, I feel like a cactus. We'll balance each other for a minute. I'll take some of your softness, and you go beat somebody up on my behalf. I had a friend who was showing me someone was being mean to her over Messenger. I was like, next time give it to me. I was like, I'll take care of this for you. And it's a constant battle with myself, because I see what's wrong, and I know that I'm right, but also I'm not correct. Humanity. So we think of the qualities of an enlightened being, and we just sit in presence with them. Sit with Christ. Sit with Buddha. Because that's all that we are. Everything that we resist is our separation from God. And when I first went on my quest to find God in all things, I recognized He is in all things. I am in all things. We are in all things. There is good in everything. And we look at our lawful reactivity, because I'm like, I'm right. Somebody stepped on my toe, I should say, And instead, I've learned to pull back and just observe my spicy human response. I don't say anything. I don't do anything. I don't create an action from my rage. I create a ponderance and a spiral instead. And And I had to ask myself if I can really be angry without entering into anger. It's a different thing. Like, can you be mad and no one know? Can you be angry and not taken by it? And just observe it. And I got the opportunity, because this is something I've been sitting with. And I was in a situation this week where I had to be in close proximity frequently with someone that I do not get along with. We have soul love, karmic connection, and I adore them, but I cannot hold space with their humanity right now. And they walk past me in the hallways and they smile and wave, and I'm just like, blech. And I was like, oh, it's so embarrassing. And I wrote something on Facebook to it recently, like, why can I not get past this? Am I loving, or am I playing the role of someone who's being loving? Because that's what it felt like. I was like, I'm not really loving. If I was really loving, I would do this. And I got forward. Again, the observer was like, you don't hate them, you just hate their face. That's okay. We'll work through that. The more frequently you have to see their face, you'll get to the point where you're like, yeah, it's not so bad. You know, at least you're not acting out. I'm not actually giving them a dirty look. You know, kudos to me. When I'm hurt by words or actions, it's a chance to work with my attachments to the idea that I have of myself. And that's all anything is. Anytime someone's mean to us or disrupts us or takes our sense of safety, it's because they're attacking the idea that we have of who we are. And I am. And when you get to the point where you are nothing, I am not these roles that I play. I do them because it is my work, but it's not actually who I am. Who I am is an actually loving being. My humanity comes in occasionally and disrupts things. But is that not purposeful? Is that not part of the process of, melding soul and human together? I don't know. I'm genuinely asking. I don't actually have much figured out. I just take lots of notes. So one thing we can do is expand into the space where they are just phenomena, just like a tree. Sometimes trees give us shade. Sometimes they fall on houses. They're not evil. It's just phenomena. It's just something that happens. It's almost atmospheric. And our response is all that matters. Are we grateful for the shade and frustrated for the tree falling on our house? Sure. But when we assign value to things outside of us is when everything gets sticky. And I have a story that I'm going to read because I pulled it off the internet. One thing that I focus a lot on is psychology. And I feel like it helped me at first in my diving into spiritualism, because it teaches us to dig deeper. It teaches us to categorize things and put things in boxes, until I realized I was putting myself in some of those boxes too. And spirit kind of overrides all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It tells us, sure, this is your psychology and this is the role you're playing, but also look up here, just let it go. Our psychology tells us to name it, and naming a demon does take its power, so there is value, and the movies did get that right. But also, just let it go. You don't have to process everything. You don't have to figure everything out. Sometimes you can just let it go and just be, and enter into that space where we can breathe, where we remember the love of Christ and the love of Buddha, and that God is love. That's one thing that I found the scriptures had right. It's that God is love. This is a story that was told to Ram Dass. It was his friend wrote it as a letter to him. The train clanked and rattled through the suburbs of Tokyo on a drowsy spring afternoon. Our car was comparatively empty. A few housewives with their kids in tow, some old folks going shopping. I gazed absently at the drab houses and the dusty hedgerows. At one station, the doors opened, and suddenly the afternoon quiet was shattered by a man bellowing violent, incomprehensible curses. The man staggered onto our car. He wore laborer's clothing. He was big, drunk, and dirty. Screaming, he swung at a woman holding a baby. The blow sent her spinning into the laps of an elderly couple. It was a miracle that the baby was unharmed. Terrified, the couple jumped and scrambled toward the other end of the car. The laborer aimed a kick at the retreating back of the old woman, but missed as she scuttled to safety. This so enraged the drunk that he grabbed the metal pole in the center of the car and tried to wrench it out of its station. I could see that one of his hands was cut and bleeding. The train lurched ahead. The passengers were frozen with fear. So I stood up. I was young then and in pretty good shape. I'd been putting in a solid 8 hours of keto training nearly every day for the past 3 years, and I loved to throw and grapple. I thought I was tough. Trouble was, my martial skill was untested in actual combat. As students of Aikido, we are not allowed to fight. Aikido, my teacher had said again and again, is the art of reconciliation. Whoever has the mind to fight has broken this connection with the universe. If you try to dominate people, you're already defeated. We study how to resolve conflict, not how to start it. I listened to his words and I tried hard, even went so far as to cross the street to avoid the pinball punks who lounged around the train stations. My forbearance exalted me. I felt both tough and holy. In my heart, however, I wanted an absolute, legitimate opportunity whereby I might save the innocent by destroying the guilty. This is it, I said to myself, getting onto my feet. People are in danger, and if I don't do something fast, then they'll probably get hurt. Seeing me stand up, the drunk recognized a chance to focus his rage. Aha, he roared, a foreigner. You need a lesson in Japanese manners. I held on lightly to the commuter strap overhead and gave him a slow look of disgust and dismissal. I planned to take this turkey apart, but he had to make the first move. I wanted him mad, so I pursed my lips and blew him an insolent kiss. All right, he hollered, you're going to get a lesson. He gathered himself for a rush at me. A split second before he could move, someone shouted, hey! It was ear-splitting. I remember the strangely joyous, lilting quality of it, as though you and a friend had been searching diligently for something and he suddenly stumbled upon it. Hey! I wheeled to my left, the drunk spun to his right. We both stared down at a tiny little Japanese man. He must have been well into his 70s, his tiny gentleman sitting there, immaculate in his kimono. He took no notice of me, but beamed delightedly at the laborer, as though he had almost an important, most welcome secret to share. Come here, the old man said to the drunk, in an easy vernacular, beckoning the drunk. Come here and talk with me. He waved his hand lightly. The big man followed as if on a string. He had planted his feet belligerently in front of the old gentleman and roared above the clacking wheels. What the hell should I talk to you about? The drunk now had his back to me. If his elbow moved so much as a millimeter, I'd drop him in his socks. The old man continued to beam at the laborer. What you been drinking? He asked, his eyes sparkling with interest. I've been drinking sake, the laborer bellowed back, and it's none of your business. Flecks of spittle spattered the old man. Oh, that's wonderful, the old man said. Absolutely wonderful. You see, I love sake. Every evening, me and my wife, she's 76, you know, we warm up a little bottle of sake and take it to the garden, and we sit on an old wooden bench. We watch the sun go down, and we look to see how our persimmon tree is doing. My great-grandfather planted that tree, and we worry about whether it will recover from the ice storms we had last winter. Our tree has done better than I expected, especially when you consider the low quality of the soil. It's gratifying to watch when we take our sake and go in the evening. We even enjoy it when it rains. He looked up at the laborer with his eyes twinkling. As he struggled to follow the old man's conversation, the drunk's face began to soften. His fists slowly unclenched. Yeah, he said, I like persimmons too. As his voice trailed off, yes, said the old man, smiling, and I'm sure you have a wonderful wife. No, replied the laborer, my wife died. Very gently swaying with the motion of the train, the big man began to sob. I don't got no wife, I don't got no home, I don't got no job. I'm so ashamed. Tears rolled down his cheeks, a spasm of despair rippled through his body. Now it was my turn, standing there in my well-scrubbed, youthful innocence, and make this world safe for democracy righteousness. I suddenly felt dirtier than he was. Then the train arrived at my stop. As the doors opened, I heard the old man cluck sympathetically. My, he said, that is difficult. Sit down and tell me all about it. I turned my head for one last look. The laborer was sprawled on the seat, his head in the old man's lap, the old man softly stroking his filthy matted hair. As the train pulled away, I sat down on a bench. What I had wanted to do with muscle had been accomplished with kind words. I had just seen Aikido tried in combat, and the essence of it was love. I would have to practice the art with an entirely different spirit. It would be a long time before I could speak about the resolution of combat, for I had seen Aikido in action.
Incredible.
Being right in righteousness, I found, is one of the final gates to spiritual awakening. And it's like a golden chain that tethers us. It's golden because it's human and it's not bad, but it's still a chain. And it still ties us into our ideas of what is right and wrong. It's not evil, but it's not helpful. And we're here to be helpful. We're here to help heal. Maybe the edge is the threshold. And that's what came to me.
Keep that going.
Man.
Thank you.
We can get a mic so we can drop it.
Right. So, for the last few Sundays, for the affirmation, we've been taking the next line of the Hadnasi Thanksgiving address. And this was not chosen just because Bekah's here and Bekah's an herbalist. It just happened, this just happened to be where we were. So I was like, look at divine timing. So I'm gonna invite you all to affirm our conscious giving statement together. Now we turn to
all the medicine herbs of the world. From the beginning, they were instructed to take away sickness. Now they're always waiting and ready to heal us. We are happy they are still among us, the special few who remember how to use these plants for healing. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to the medicines and the keepers of the medicines.
So we have this handy dandy QR code. If you are somebody that does not roll around with cash but would like to support us, this QR code is a way that you can give online. We also have this text to give option where you just text the number to wherever it is, to the amount to the phone number. And Mary Lee's got a basket here that if you've got cash in your pocket and you'd like to give financial energy, you are welcome to. If you'd like to give physical energy of your love,
Perfect.
Mary Lee's inviting you to give your love energy, whatever kind of energy that you would like to give, whether it is online, in the basket, financial, whatever it is, we support it. I was thinking about what a gift it is to be engaged in real life community, that we've had this shift in the last 15 years, especially during the pandemic, of being in online spaces. And I'm not anti-virtual spaces, and the reality is that there's a lot of value that comes from seeing each other, of hugging each other. So I appreciate each one of you for having shown up in conscious community together and for supporting us financially to allow for us to provide this service to you each week. So I'm gonna take my drums to my seat and invite Risa to lead us in a song.
Okay.
We are
That was something that was given by Ron.
I don't know, I brought my drum with me, but whatever.
He said, what was the name of that book? What was the name of that book?
All right. This Thursday is our Cacao Healing Circle. That QR code is how you register online, and you do need to know how many people are coming. That $10 suggested donation is an actual suggestion. So there is an option if you register online to register with whatever amount you are inspired to, whatever amount, but your registration lets us know how much cacao we actually need, and registration for that is closing on the 25th. So make sure you register if this is something that you'd like to attend. Risa taught me how to make cacao, so this is me making my first pot of cacao, and I'm grateful. I took that cacao class from Risa to know how to do it. We have a potluck on the first Sunday of every month, and this next Sunday is that potluck. So you are invited to join us after Spirit Uncuffed. If you forget, you are still welcome to join us and enjoy the food, community food. And that same Sunday at 3 p.m. after the potluck, Brian Lotman is doing a whole Spirit Uncuffed takeover. We're not having our traditional sound bath at 12:30. He's going to be leading us in meditation at 12:30, and he's doing his whole takeover situation from 1 to 2, and then leading us in this Awakening Higher States of Consciousness workshop that is occurring after the potluck next week. So QR code for that, and all of these registration links are on our website. So if you have not scanned anything and tomorrow your intuition's like, I really want to go to that cacao ceremony, feel free to go to our website at unitedlife.org to register for these things. Following Sunday is our Leadership Council meeting, which will be in the room next door at 3 p.m. And the Centers for Spiritual Living, this is the last week for nominations. Nominations close on March 1st for to nominate somebody in the community. Could be anybody. It could be somebody who maybe you haven't met from this community. Maybe you've been to a Center for Spiritual Living in another state and you want to give this person a shout out. Donnell went to watch some services in Dallas. You know, if you've engaged in another center, another community, highly recommend that you give somebody their flowers, that you fill out a nomination form. I am explicitly asking, do not nominate me. Mary Lee is the person I would recommend to nominate for Dr. Sue Ellen, who is the senior minister. James, who's been a member of Centers for Spiritual Living for 57 years. These are all people that I think deserve their flowers and would love for us to get some nominations for people from our community for the award ceremony that's going to be taking place in April at the Reno conference, where I'm attending. So if somebody from this community wins, I can shout you out from the stage at that conference in April. We also have this survey. We had a virtual service at the end of January during winter weather. I refuse to call it a snowstorm because I'm from Chicago and that was not a storm. That was winter. But nobody in Oklahoma wanted to be out in the cold and in the snow, and I get that. So we had our service online, and it went so well that folks were like, let's do more of this. So I would love to hear your thoughts about what you'd like for a virtual service. What are your thoughts, Donnell?
Not comparing wounds. After Bekah's talk, yeah. Yeah, maybe our snowstorm is a snowstorm.
Dysregulation is dysregulation.
Yeah, whatever language you need to use, I call that winter. That's my description for what happened that week. If you're a fan, if you're like, yes, this is my spot, I want to be a member. The whole point of being a member here is that you have a voice for our annual meeting. That you've got to vote, you have a say in what we're doing and how we're doing it. So if you want to have a say and a vote, feel free to follow that QR code and make it official. Become a member. All right, so we're gonna close out by walking in beauty. I'm gonna stay here. All right,
You did
stay here.
amazing, like phenomenal. Like,
We go walk in beauty. You know what is good? I'm with it.
Walking
You
beauty.
definitely-
So walking in beauty to me
listen.
just means living my
You have
life in
to. You
alignment.
have to.
Taking that
Have
inner
to.
love that we're all learning and bringing it forth into our own world.
And so it is.
The best week ever. We got this treasure chest. If you got some prayer requests, something you want to release from your heart, release that anger. That treasure chest is a great place for it. And
Thank you for the
sign our
people.
guest book.
Thank you for the people that showed up online. We was pretty deep online today.
All right, pretty deep online. I'm gonna go back and look at y'all's comments. Thank you for showing up online and participating. Have the best week ever.
Best week ever.